You ever wonder how some people get rich, and I mean really wealthy, at a young age, while others with the same exact job seem to be spinning their wheels? It's usually not some lucky stock pick or a crypto gamble that paid off. The real difference, well, it's kind of boring. So boring, in fact, that it's almost invisible. So, let's just get into it. Here are the 7 boring habits that actually build wealth.
Okay, so to really get what I'm talking about, check this out. This is a true story from Ohio. You've got 2 people, right? Same company, same exact salary, $47,000 a year. But by the time they both hit age 33, one of them had a net worth of over $1 million. The other, $40,000 in debt. You know, that doesn't just happen by accident.
So what gives? Same job, same pay. What's the real difference here? If it's not about how much money they're making, what is it? Well, the whole secret, if you can even call it that, is just a set of simple, repeatable systems. Yeah, no flashy tricks, no get-rich-quick nonsense, just the fundamentals. So let's break them down.
All right, first things first. We've got to talk about defense. You can't win a game with just a star quarterback, right? You need a rock-solid defensive line. And that's exactly what these first 2 habits are all about. They're about building this financial fortress, an automatic system that's always working to protect you, even when you're not thinking about it.
And that brings us to our very first habit. And this one might throw you for a loop. Ready? Stop budgeting. Yep, you heard me. The people who actually build wealth at a young age are not the ones spending their Sunday nights agonizing over every single coffee purchase in a spreadsheet. Nope, they're doing something way, way more powerful.
Look, here's the difference. It all comes down to discipline versus systems. Budgeting, that takes willpower. Every single day. And let's be real, our willpower runs out. Automating, that just takes one single decision. One. You set it up so a chunk of your paycheck goes straight into your investments the second it hits your account. It's gone before you can even think about spending it.
And hey, this isn't just me talking. Thomas Stanley, the guy who wrote The Millionaire Next Door, he spent decades studying actual real-life millionaires. And guess what he found? This exact pattern. Most of them couldn't tell you what they spent on milk last week, but every single one knew the exact percentage of their income that was automatically saved and invested. They made the big decision once, and then they let the system handle the rest.
All right, our second defensive habit. This one sounds so simple, but man, it's tough for people to actually do. It's this. When you get a raise, nothing changes. You keep living on your old, lower income. This is the ultimate weapon against what I call the silent wealth killer, lifestyle inflation.
And when you do that, this is what happens. Your income starts to climb, but you make a conscious choice to keep your expenses totally flat. And that gap you see growing between those 2 lines, that's not just money. That's what we call the freedom gap. That is your ticket out. That's the fuel for your future.
Okay, so defense is locked in. That's crucial. But you don't win a game just by playing defense, right? So let's flip the script and talk offense. These next habits are all about how you actively grow your resources and start putting that money to work.
When you think investing, you probably think stocks, right? And yeah, sure, that's part of it. But the young people who build wealth fast, they invest in something else first. They invest in themselves, in their own skills. Think about it. Your paycheck is just a number that reflects how valuable your skills are to the marketplace. So the fastest way to get a bigger paycheck, make yourself more valuable.
Let me give you a real example. There's this engineer down in Austin. He gets his first real bonus, 12 grand. Now most people would beeline for a new car. What did he do? He dropped 8,000 of it on a cloud computing certification and a public speaking coach. Sounds nuts, right? Well, 2 years later, his salary had literally doubled. You are not going to find that kind of return on investment in the S&P 500.
You know that famous Warren Buffett quote, "The best investment you can ever make is in yourself"? Everyone nods their head when they hear that. Oh yeah, so true. But almost nobody actually does it. It's easier to buy some online course about passive income than it is to spend the time and money to become so good at your actual job that they have to pay you more.
Now, what about those multiple streams of income everyone's always yelling about? This brings us to habit number 4. You have to stack your success. All those online gurus tell you to juggle 7 different side hustles at once. It's a total myth. That's not how real wealth is built. It stacks. You get really, really good at one thing until it's spinning off cash. Then you take that cash and build the next thing. Like this shopkeeper in Queens. He ran a great bodega, then used the profits to buy the building, then used the rent to open another bodega. One thing, then the next. That's compounding.
All right,
We've got our defense, we've got our offense, but honestly, none of that matters if your head's not in the right place. So these final 3 habits, they're all about your mindset. This is the unseen advantage, the glue that holds this whole thing together. Okay, habit number 5. This is a game changer. You have to learn to treat money emotionlessly. For most of us, money is this crazy, dramatic relationship. It's filled with guilt, anxiety, stress, you name it. The wealthy? They treat money like a plumber treats a wrench. It's just a tool, a system with inputs and outputs. That's it. No drama.
Morgan Housel said it best in his book, The Psychology of Money. He said, doing well with money has almost nothing to do with how smart you are and everything to do with how you behave. The second you pull the emotion out of it, the second you start thinking about money instead of feeling about it, the whole game just clicks into focus for the first time.
All right, let's talk about habit number 6. This is the one nobody wants to hear. It feels, I don't know, a little harsh, but it's the absolute truth. The people you hang out with, your environment, have a bigger impact on your bank account than almost anything else.
You've heard that saying, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? Well, it is 100% true when it comes to money. Their spending habits, their attitudes about work, their goals, it all creates this gravitational pull, and you will inevitably drift toward their average. The wealthy aren't being mean when they choose their friends carefully. They're just being intentional about who they let into their orbit. Okay, let's tie this all together. We've got our defense, our offense, and our mindset. Now let's see how all these supposedly boring habits actually combine to create some pretty incredible results. And that brings us to the final and maybe most important habit of all. Number 7, get obsessed with the boring stuff. Seriously. While everybody else is chasing the next hot stock tip on social media or gambling on crypto, the people who are quietly building real wealth, they're nerding out on tax strategies. They're learning about index fund expense ratios. They're fascinated by compound interest. They actually understand how the machine works.
And this all goes right back to that guy from Ohio we started with, the one making 47 grand a year. How did he get to over $1 million? He just did the things we talked about. He automated his savings. He lived on his old salary for years. He invested in himself with that welding certification. He stacked his success with a side gig. He treated money like math, not drama. He was careful about who he spent his time with. And yeah, he got interested in the boring stuff instead of just watching Netflix.
And that's really the big secret, isn't it? We've all been sold this lie that you need to be a genius or have some billion-dollar idea to build wealth. You don't. You just need to do a few simple, boring things over and over again for about a decade while everyone else is chasing shiny objects. In the long run, consistency will smoke genius every single time. Look, the next 10 years of your life, they're going to pass no matter what. They'll just happen. You're going to arrive in 10 years' time somewhere. So the only real question is, where do you want that to be?